I think there is comfort that understanding that there's no tomorrow. I think if you can wrap your brain around that and enjoy today for what it is, and you understand that I have to get everything out of this moment that it has to offer, I think that can be freeing for kids and coaches.
Welcome to the Jamodi Podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head boys basketball coach at Lewisville High School, Toby Martin. Coach Martin is in his 21st year of coaching, 13th as a head coach, and has 240 wins overall. He spent 8 years in the Colony system before becoming the head coach at Irving MacArthur for 10 years and is now in his third season at Lewisville High School. In 2015, he led Irving MacArthur to a state semifinals appearance. He was named Star Telegram Coach of the Year, Dallas Morning News Coach of the Year, and USA Today Texas High School Coach of the Year in 2015. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at Jamodi Podcast.
All right. Hey, how's it going, my man?
First question is, where did the gray hair on both of our heads come from?
For me, it's a couple early playoff round losses. So, yeah.
Coach,
yeah.
Are we really getting that old, man? Are we really getting that old?
We are really getting that old. I was actually talking about you recently, us working Champions Camp together. So many, that had to be 17 years ago.
Yeah, it was before I think I had started. I don't think I had been with Clarkson yet. So
yeah. So it's been a long, windy road, but glad to still consider you a good friend, man.
No doubt. And man, just thank you so much for giving up your time and talking hoops. And it is always fun when there is a prior relationship to the call. And so you're one of those guys that, I mean, you've been successful wherever you've been, and we're both a part of the Colony tree in different ways. You started under Coach Thomas within the middle school, and worked up with Coach Ryan, and so I think you probably feel the same way I do, kind of thinking fondly about them and still being a Colony Cougar in your heart.
Yeah, I don't think that's a place that ever really leaves your core. I learned a lot of good lessons there. Just dumb luck on how I got there, and it was the best lucky situation that's ever happened to me. So
let me ask you this. Is the Colony-Lewisville rivalry, is that still a thing? Does it even exist anymore?
Not so much. With them being 5A and us being 6A, we only have the opportunity to play, in a non-district setting, maybe a tournament. Depends on how Cleve's feeling, if he wants to give me a game or not. Depends on how good he thinks they're going to be. But no, in all seriousness, we just don't have the opportunity to play at the frequency you guys once did. So
yeah, and see that's tough to hear though, because like between you and then even Flama Marcus back in the day, those were such healthy rivalries where there's a part of me that I'm just ashamed to say it. I even wonder, like, should I even be talking to him because he's at Lewisville? I think we can get past it though.
Let me tell you this. Initially, it was hard to imagine myself in maroon. And when you take a moment to look at it and you look at how great of a district this is, when this opportunity came up and I was able to put on the maroon and white, it's been a great change for me, and I'm glad to be back in LIST for sure.
And no doubt, I have nothing against it, and so glad that you're there because I mean, I remember the type of athletes and players that came out of that school, and there's been great ones after us being around, and so super happy that you're there. Tell me how your year went.
You went great, man. We ended up winning, plus 20 games. Anytime you do that, you feel like it's been a good year. Yeah. We were able to finish third in district, and we had some opportunities to finish a little higher, but it's a tough district. You're in there with Plano East. I think half of our district was ranked in the top 25 at various points throughout the season. So it's a monster of a district. And I feel like playing in such a tough environment night in and night out and not being able to, coast on any night prepares you to make, playoff runs and put you in good situation to have a chance to win games that people may not think you're able to pull off.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you hear in the tournament when some of these coaches from bigger conferences talk about the SEC and talk about the Big 12 and how it's actually nice now to get out of that into to play some other schools that not that they're not at their level, but yeah, when you're in a district like you're in, I mean, you're definitely getting prepared every night.
Yeah, for sure. There are no nights off in this district.
How many years now coaching? Because you started, I think, in 2003 in the middle school level. So what, 20 years? And then how many as a head coach?
12 as a head coach. This is my 12th year as a head coach, 20 all in. Again, I've had an interesting story on how I got here. I don't know that you've even heard it before, but when I say I got here by being the luckiest guy alive, when I graduated from college from East Central University, first year out, I applied my hometown and didn't get a job. And so I was a manager of a Hibbett Sport for, I wouldn't even say a year. I'd say about 9 months. And working that Black Friday sale, I was like, I am not coming back to retail next year. So I didn't really understand the way that things work here in Texas. Like, you want to start applying for jobs in March. Well, I started applying in late May, early June. People have already gotten their staffs together. I'd applied in LISD, didn't know anything about them except for they had a great rating on Google or whatever search. I was probably using like Bing or some old search engine, Ask Jeeves or something. And so I had applied and I didn't hear anything back from them. And I saw that there was a Dallas ISD job fair coming open. And this was we were into July. And so I was getting nervous because I hadn't heard anything from anybody. And the weekend I was supposed to go to the DISD job fair, I got a call that said they had somebody that left late and they let them out of their contract and they'd like to bring me in. And so I said, that's great. I'm coming there for a job fair anyway. I went in on that Friday and interview with Assistant Soup, interview with Dr. Nauman that was at Lakeview, interview with Brent Davis that was the head coach at the Colony High then, head football coach, coordinator. And then the next day I went to the DISD job fair and I told my mom, I applied at like maybe 6 places at that job fair. And I said, whoever calls me on Monday, that's where I'm going. Like, I'm taking the job because I'm not waiting around. I can't be back here. I got to get out of this. I'm from a town of 18,000 in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. So she understood, and I got a call, I want to say at like 9:15, 9:30 from LISD. They asked me if I wanted the job. I said, absolutely. I didn't even know what I was teaching. And then about 30 minutes later, I got a call from a middle school in DISD, and I said, thank you, but I've already accepted. And the rest is history, man. Linked up. You talk about just people watching out for you and things breaking your way at the right time. I got a chance to, without ever meeting him, work with Coach Thomas. And, just didn't interview with him, just kind of like, I got the job and one of the basketball spots was open. And I give all the credit in the world to Tyron Lee, who's the first basketball coach I actually met when I got to Texas. And we've been friends ever since. And we talked a little bit and he was like, well, hey, coach basketball with us. So I was the head track coach and assistant, basketball coach. And the rest is history, man. Just a lot of things, a lot of good people, crossed my path and things broke my way.
Man, love that story. That's awesome. I love getting to talk with head coaches, and you've been at a few different schools. So that's your third school or third district. And what's one of the best things that you've borrowed lately?
One of the best things I've borrowed lately is, so coming to LISD was a bit of a culture shock. And because I'd been in Irving for 10 years and people tell you it's going to be the same kind of kids, but kids everywhere are going to be a little bit different. And so I got here and I was expecting something that wasn't necessarily like I thought I was going to be dealing with a different demographic or whatnot. And I got here and it was, not what I was expecting. And I had just had to Bruce Lee it and be like the water. and adjust. So these kids up here, man, they have cars and they have interest outside of basketball. And for 10 years, my guys at MacArthur were ball is life guys. Like if they weren't at home, they were in the gym. And I had to readjust and learn that, hey, there is more to life than just high school basketball. And these guys like to go bowl and they have jobs to help pay their gas and car insurance. Like it's just a different set. It's been good, no doubt, but I've had to learn to be like the water a little bit and not be so rigid.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear kind of how you handled that, because I think it's always a shock when you realize that your players, and it happens to coaches at different times. For me, was my first year at Naaman Forest with Jeff Clarkson when I realized from one of the seniors that he didn't want to go play college basketball. And it blew me away. I thought every high school kid wanted to. That's why they were doing this. And so how did you handle that when you realized, wow, these dudes, like, this isn't number one priority? Did you adjust the way that you spoke to them? Because I think as coaches, it's very easy for us to be passive aggressive and to just throw out little comments. How did you handle that?
Actually, I had my first experience with that last year. I came in and there was a kid, 6'3", 6'4", I thought could play at a good Division II, could shoot it, could post it, team guy, rebound it. And he thought he wanted to play early on as well. And when I got here, and the way, I'm an in-your-face, no-nonsense coach, and I'm going to coach you hard, but I'm going to love you harder. And it took an adjustment for him to understand that I'm not just, into him for no reason. And he decided a little before season that, like, hey, if this is what it really takes, because I kept talking to him about the next level and what it takes and the grind. And he was coming in before morning and he was staying late and he was shooting the ball. And I talked to him about, like, this is what it's like forever until the ball doesn't bounce anymore. And he decided it wasn't for him. And we played fall league. And I want to say that when he wanted to play college basketball, he was always pressing. I got to be perfect. I got to be perfect. When he made the decision that he didn't want to play at the next level and it became fun again and not a job, is when it both clicked for both of us. So everything that I was asking him to do, he knew it was going to be the last time he was going to do it. So he embraced it and walked towards it rather than run from it. And he had a great senior year. That kid is one of the toughest, probably the toughest kid I've ever coached physically. At the end of the season, during the school day, he was in a boot walking around. He was getting heavily taped for games. I want to say it was the Marcus game. He went up, got clipped, fell on his face, eye swole shut. And it was that weird thing to where we had to play back-to-back days at the end of the season. Yeah. So I was like, man, we're not going to have him for the Hebron game, and we need that game to force a play in. And they got him over there at halftime and in between quarters and timeout with cold spoons, pressing his eye down. They've got him taped up.
Cut me, Mick.
Yeah. Real rocky situation, man. And that guy comes out, and normally I'd be mad because he broke off a set, but we were running action for a last-second shot, and he broke my set off and pulled about a 27-foot three and hit it. And, he was unapologetic about it, and I wasn't mad at it at all. So I say all that to say, man, I think there is comfort that understanding that there's no tomorrow. I think if you can wrap your brain around that and enjoy today for what it is, and you understand that I have to get everything out of this moment that it has to offer, I think that can be freeing for kids and coaches.
Yeah, that's kind of the goal. Like, if we can get, it doesn't matter what their aspirations are, if we can get them just to show up and give their very, very best, and to train and practice that way. I also think, like, there's still a purity in high school basketball, because for a majority of them, they know it's the end. Like, there isn't, like you and I, we had those carrots dangling out in front, to keep moving, keep doing things. If you had, I guess maybe a challenge is for us as coaches to not just appreciate and enjoy those guys that want to play in college, but also appreciate and validate the ones that are only doing it for this experience. Like the best player we've ever had at Grapevine Faith, his sophomore year told me I had just gotten this job and I thought, this is our first college player, and since I've been here and since the sophomore year, he just didn't want to play. He watched his older sister play, not a great experience. And I said, well, hey, just don't close any doors. But the guy worked so hard. And I mean, scored 2,700 points, 435 made threes. And it was just like, never once wanted to play. And it's just inspiring. Like he was doing it just to be a great high school player and to maximize his time. And I tell players this all the time. His final tweet after our last game his senior year, he said, I have no regrets. I loved every minute of it. Like, boom, that's it. Like, that's really what we want. The college stuff and playing later on, that's great. And we'll help them. But I think that's the goal.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. I always tell our guys, this should not be the highlight of your life, but it should be a bright spot in it.
Yeah.
And you should walk away from it with understanding how to function in relationships, understanding how to work hard when you don't want to, and understanding how to function within a team setting. So if you can do that and leave, it will be a bright spot in your life, but it shouldn't be the highlight of your life.
No doubt they play a big part in that, of it being a bright spot. But how much do coaches, how much do we play a part in them having that type of memory of playing basketball in high school?
I think we have a huge part in it, or at least we should. Again, every team has guys on it that don't get yelled at much and that they just do the right thing, right? And everybody is like, well, that's, Coach Saman's favorite guy, or that's Coach Martin's favorite guy. He's never on him like he's on me. And I think in those moments, like, you've got to really, really work to build relationships with guys that aren't going to give you much production. And they're not going to have the same experience as a kid that hits the game-winning basket, but they have to have a real experience. And the real experience is adjusting to, how do you become a great teammate when you're not the guy that's getting the ball, or you're not getting in this game. And if you can teach those guys the value of learning that lesson, then you've made a great impact as a coach.
And a big piece to that too is the relationship piece. Mm-hmm. And I think you've already mentioned it, but my first year, I asked Coach Thomas, what would you have done differently? And this is just 16 years ago. I just wanted to know. I'm starting new, Coach. What's something that you would do over? And he said, Matt, I would spend more time with guys, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on the roster, getting to know them better and investing in them. Because without realizing it, man, we can spend the majority of our time not just in front of them, but off the floor, thinking about that top rotation. And then another challenge, maybe we can help players look back fondly, because you and I both have either our teammates from high school, or we've heard the people that said, man, it was awful. Like I hated every second of it. I couldn't wait for it to be over. And man, like that's not, I would imagine whatever coach they're talking about, like that wasn't his goal, but if we're not careful, it can happen under our watch.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I mean, building a relationship with those guys, you've got to find something outside of basketball that's a common interest. And mine is usually sneakers. Like, I'm listening to the same music I listened to 20 years ago. They're not interested in it. Shockingly, I am like totally video game averse. Interesting fun fact about me. I have never bought a video game system. Never in my life. Like, from my personal purchase.
Yeah,
I got a Nintendo in like 1989. And I think my mom bought me the first PlayStation. But after that, like, I've just never been a video game guy. So I kind of connect with those guys through sneakers, things like that, and try to find something. Sneakers and food, man, that's my thing.
I like that. You had mentioned favorites. One of my favorite times of directing with PGC in that point guard college week was on Wednesday nights. We would allow the parents to come in and watch that 3-hour module, which was an hour in the classroom and then 2 hours on the floor. And I love that what we we just did a normal classroom like we would normal, but what the topics we were covering, it was really good stuff for the parents to hear. And one of those topics was favorites. And you could almost feel like when I bring it up, you could feel the parents like, oh no, you are, as a coach, you are not supposed to, you're not allowed to have favorites. I think favoritism is bad, but favorites, like, I mean, I have 3 dogs. One of them is my favorite. I love them all, but the great point that we used to tell the players and the parents was, coaches have favorites, but it's your right to become a favorite. So you got to figure out what are the things that you need to do to be the favorite of your coach, not a brown noser, not a kiss up, but like in your opinion, coach, what are some of the things that make a player a favorite for you?
I encourage my players to respectfully challenge me. Like, I want to know, like, coach, we should have this guy in right now because they're doing this, or this is how they're playing the ball screen. Why are we running this? I want to be respectfully challenged. Now, I don't want you losing your mind and having a meltdown and a fit. Yeah. But if we're in a timeout and we have a heated debate on something, I am pretty prone to listen to the player. And if it fails, I don't hold it against them because I'm not out there. They're seeing something a little different than I'm seeing. And if we've done what we needed to do in practice, I should trust that player. So I have a player right now that, we get into it. He's graduating and we get into it. And I absolutely love that kid. And we have a great relationship all times of the day except for practice. I don't go in on him during a game because I understand his personality. That's not how you get the best production out of him. I wouldn't embarrass him or chastise him to prove to a bunch of people I don't know that I'm coaching him hard. I mean, he's going to make some mistakes, but I understand where his head at is when he makes those mistakes. And during practice, we wear each other out. And I am totally okay with it. I am okay with him coming in a bad mood because I've been on him for 3 straight days and he's anticipating a 4th and he's looking for a confrontation. And I told, those guys, I said, you guys think me and this player love each other and it's, ice cream and cake every day, but y'all don't see the talks in my office. Like, you don't see each other challenging each other. And I think as an adult, you have to be open to the ideas of your players, and it's going to make you a better coach.
I think that takes a lot of security on your part, though. Why doesn't every coach view that way or think that way? I think maybe there's a little bit of a fear from coaches of being challenged by players. So where did that security come from to basically kind of open yourself up to that from your players?
I've got a saying I live by, and I use it probably too much. I know my daughter is tired of hearing it, but it's, do you want to be right or do you want to get it right? And, if you concentrate on you being the one that got it right, you're going to get a lot of stuff wrong because you can't see the entire picture. And what does getting it right look like? Well, getting it right looks like achieving the goals you've set before the game or before the season. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. Like, I'm not getting any pats on the back if we're only doing it my way and it's not being successful. I want to be successful in totality. So that's kind of where that comes from. I want to get it right. I don't necessarily need to be right. And I mean, 20 years into it, man, I'm not really trying to prove to anybody that I know what I'm doing by now. Like, if I don't know what I'm doing by now and y'all figure it out, that means y'all made 19 mistakes in a row. So,
coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Ballogy. Manage and measure your players' skill development and increase accountability year-round utilizing the Ballogy app. Boost inter-squad competition with drills backed by the National High School Basketball Coaches Association, including a 40-shot Ballogy skills assessment. Please visit ballogy.com/teams for information on how you can provide this resource for your team. You're able to be around Coach Thomas, another guy, Coach Ryan, and then probably like me, you go to clinics, you read books, you listen to podcasts, whatever it is. What's one quality that you see in great leaders?
The ability to confront their mistakes, fix their mistakes, and be humble about it with their teams or with their entire program, maybe parents included. There's been times where, we're in a game, we get in game flow, a guy's sitting a little bit too far down the bench, and maybe we're not successful and we don't win that game. And I look back and I say, man, I needed more rebounds. I needed this. I needed energy. I should have went with that guy. And I'll bring that guy in and talk to him, and I'll apologize about it. And next time I'm in that situation, I give him some things to do, like, hey, you need to sit closer so that I can identify you. You need to do your part. You can't go down to the end of the bench and sulk or just watch and be a teammate. If you think you can impact, like, you've got to be on my mind. But I think the ability to embrace their shortcomings and try to fix them is one of the best qualities you can see in a leader. And then being a servant leader. I got to be honest with you, man. This is the first place I've ever been as a head. Well, I've only been two places as a head coach, but when I was at MacArthur, I worked for a guy named Ronnie Mullins, and he taught me a lot. He was the head football coach and athletic coordinator there a couple of years before I left. He was there for 3 or 4 years. And every year he'd bring me in on my eval, and he'd say, Coach, you got to delegate more. Like, I love what you're doing. I love the way you are, but you're taking on too much. And I think that if you're a head coach and you're not delegating some responsibilities out, that's not good for assistants, because you're not showing them that you ultimately trust them. So when I got to Lewisville, the change that I made is I'm okay, because I feel like I've been an underdog a lot in this game and as a player, anything. And so I've always tried to keep that assistant's mindset of I'm going to grind. And I got to Lewisville and I inherited 2 great assistants, like absolutely awesome assistants. And they had they had ways that they did even something like laundry, and it was a finely tuned machine. And I thought to myself, if I come in here, it's going to be egotistical to disrupt what they're doing just to prove that I'm the head coach. They don't mind doing it. They have a system set up. Why would I disrupt what they're doing? And I told them, look, this is why I'm doing this, guys. And I've given more responsibility to my assistants in the past 2 years than I probably ever had as a head coach previously. And that's including game planning. I'm going to be honest with you. If you watch us and we had a great defensive game, that is all John Sutton, my varsity assistant. He is a grinder. He's a wizard. He's going to be a great head coach one day. He's got me in a situation where I want to see him go be a great head coach, but I don't know what I'm going to do without him.
But you're happy if he stays.
Oh yeah. Happy if he stays. He runs things by me. He checks. We have checks and balances. Hey, how do you want to play the ball screen here? How do you want to do X, Y, Z with this personnel? I give him the thumbs up, or he'll even come to me and say, hey, coach, how would you look at this situation in this set? And I say, well, this is what I'd like to see. And he's okay with amending how he does things, but game planning defensively, that's on him. And I go by during defensive segments. And that's another great thing. You're talking about connecting earlier, with guys 8, 9, 10, 11. I think when you have an assistant that you trust and they're leading that segment of practice, and you can go by and actually interpersonally teach technique or walk by and crack a joke, and they see that you actually do have a sense of humor, you can build that connection, because now they're getting that one-on-one time that they might not have necessarily gotten previously if you're the commanding voice all the time.
I think a lot of coaches are naturally control freaks. There's a part of that probably makes them great. What was it like for you when you did come into Lewisville, had those assistants, started to delegate? What have been some of the positives from that?
Some of the positives is it's a lot less stressful of it all being about me, and to release that kind of control and to understand that the program is bigger than one person. I always felt like, I was under Cleve and under Tommy, and it was always about program. And even as an assistant with Cleve, I remember going in my second year and him saying, hey, you've got to have a bigger voice in this. You got to take some ownership in this and make it more about, what your thoughts are. And if you have a question, run it by me. And if we disagree, I'm going to win, but just, have ideas. Yeah. And so I've always kind of been like that, but releasing more control it's definitely changed the way I view the game, because now if he's controlling the defense, I may see something and we'll talk about an adjustment that I might not have seen before because my eyes are so locked in over here. So it allows me to step into that assistance role. And I think as an assistant, we obviously saw things differently than our head coach sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are helpful and sometimes they're not. But I think it allows me to step back into that role and see the game from a different aspect.
What are some of those coaches and leaders that you do follow closely, that you learn from?
Oh, man. So, I do a shootout, showcase at the beginning. We're going to get you in there coming up. But I do one at the beginning of the year. And if you look on the teams that are coming to that, there are guys that have close connections with the colony, or we have a deep relationship. And there are so many guys, I can name off a bunch of celebrity coaches that I follow and this, that, and the other. And I think we all have but locally, some of the guys that I really just absolutely admire: Joel Donaldson at Nimitz, Stephen Hamrick at Colleyville Heritage, obviously Cleve. It's good to see a guy like Scott Straley, who was in the first 8th grade class that Tyron and I ever coached, is now the head coach at Frisco Independence, and he's killing it. And it's just great to see those guys and kind of follow what they do and see what they've taken from the colony, if they're former colony guys. And then I steal all the time. I am like, if I go to your game and I see something I like, it's theft. And I'll run it against you, and I'll call it the same thing you call it. And just because, that's kind of
I love that
arrogant gamesmanship. So Tyron did that to me a couple of years ago. We were playing over at his house, and they were really good. I think it was 2 years ago, and we were running a matchup, and he ran a set, and I looked over at him, and I just shook my head, and he knew what it meant, because I was like, you're the only guy that's figured this out, and I can't do anything I can't run this anymore. So I really like to follow the guys within the immediate area and see how they're doing. Like, I really admire the way you guys shoot the ball and how fast you play. Like, you guys play at a pace that's absolutely unbelievable. And we have the speed to do that. I don't know if we have the shooters, but we definitely have the speed to do it.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love to have the speed. I'd love to have the speed.
I'm going to be totally honest with you, Matt, though. When it comes to following like a college coach or a celebrity coach, there are guys that I like, but I mostly follow football coaches because I think there's a discipline in football. And I think football is probably the ultimate team game. I think we know in basketball, if you got a dude, you can cover up a lot of warts with one guy.
Yeah.
But football, there's so many numbers involved that things have to be bought in on a team level to be successful. And I remember when Pete Carroll was getting, a 5-star quarterback every year, they would ask him, hey, why are you continuing to recruit these 5-stars one after another? And his philosophy was, if you can win the quarterback competition, then we've got something special. So, that's something that I've always looked at about that game and really admired. So I follow him, Saban, a couple other. Obviously, I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. So whoever the head coach, even Brian Kelly, whoever the head coach there at the time, I'm going to follow and go.
I love that you said that about the local high school coaches, because that's a big motivation for me doing this, is that I like you, I love listening to the big time college coaches and a couple of NBA coaches here or there. Need to dabble outside of our sport a little bit more. I do need to do that. But I've just always been blown away by the high school and the small college coaches in this area and just how amazing they are, and the great stuff that they run, the cultures that they have. And so, I'm along the same way as you. I love getting to learn from those guys that are right in our backyard here.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, my first year at MacArthur, Stephen Hamrick had been the previous head coach at MacArthur, and he was so gracious. And, when I had questions about that job, and we were in district with Colleyville when he went back over. And I don't know how, but we went over there and we beat them the first round of district. And I tell you what, when they came to MacArthur and played me that second time, or played us that second time, he put a coach's clinic on me. I thought I knew basketball. I did not know basketball because he has a defense he runs. I don't know if he's still running it, Red, and they wore us out. Like we couldn't make a skip pass. We couldn't get into secondary action. He just put a coach's clinic on, and I have this rule. I love coaches that make me think.
Yeah.
Like Joel Donaldson at Nimitz, it doesn't matter how great the MacArthur athletes were at that time. No matter who he brought, it was going to be a tough game because he could always put a wrinkle in to make me think. And I love that part of the game. I love the cerebral part of the game of me having to call a timeout and adjust or break away from what I would naturally do at halftime and adjust to what he's doing. Like I love the back and forth and the push and pull of that. So I always bring those guys up of being two of the best in the area. So Joel is so underrated, but just a good coach, but even better guy.
Coach, I'm going to bring up the buzzword culture, and but standards, pillars, ways you show up. How does culture drive performance?
Number one thing, I think at its core, your team is going to take on the personality of their coach, for better or for worse. And because I feel like a blue collar guy, the saying around our locker room is tough gets on the bus. You can't control whether shots are going to go in all the time. You can't control officiating, but what you can control is the 50-50 balls and playing with a chip on your shoulder. So the culture that we try to build is that blue collar. I always tell people when they ask me how is coaching basketball, I say it's very different now because I feel like I'm coaching in 1988 and they're playing in 2023. So, we want to be a culture of tough, and we want to be gritty. We want to be able to expect adversity and not be shocked when it happens.
I like that.
And
go ahead.
The number one pillar is don't panic. Like bad things are going to happen and we shouldn't panic and we shouldn't rely on emotion to get us through. Now, if we have emotion because we're fired up and we can control it, great. But emotion is very unreliable and it can be a roller coaster. And if you get down too far in a valley, you may not be able to get back up the hill. So we are not a program that wants to necessarily rely on that emotion. If we do get it and we can channel it properly, great. But that is not something we want to rely on. And I think emotion causes panic. So you hear me say a lot of times, don't panic. I have a set number. If we're down by this number going in the fourth quarter, we're fine. And I repeat it over and over and over. And we've been in those situations. At our seeding game against Hebron this year, we were down, I think 9. And I've got my big man, hey guys, it's 3 possessions. We're fine. Get a stop, get a kill. Yeah. We call 3 stops in a row, 3 conversions a kill, get a kill.
I get toughness. But you're right. When emotion comes into it, obviously you don't want your players to be robots in the fact that they don't allow positive emotion in, but sometimes that negative emotion can even take you, if it's focused and channeled, can take you to another place, another effort level, another level of focus. But how do you actually get them there? How do you work on it?
I think it's by showing up and having a consistent personality. We know this is going to make Martin upset. He was very upfront with the do's and don'ts of what we're trying to do daily. We know this is going to make him upset. We know he's probably going to let you make it if you do this. And then we know that he's going to celebrate this. So I think it's, like I said, your players are going to take on your personality. If you have a consistent personality and they know what to expect, I think it's easier to channel emotion because now we're not afraid of the result of our action. If it's fourth quarter, we're down a possession, we come down and we take a long 3. We understand we have proof that Coach Martin isn't going to call a timeout and lose it on me. He's just going to ask me to get it back, and I'm going to work my tail off to get it back for him.
Yeah, you're right on the money. What you're talking about is clear expectations. Like, because you've set those expectations up, players know exactly. Like, anytime that I feel like, see something that our teams aren't doing well or areas where we need to improve, instead of wondering why, like why, or even just yelling out at one line of, guys, listen, we have to control our emotions better. Well, you always have to turn that around. It's that extreme ownership, and you got to look back at yourself. Like, maybe my team's not handling their emotions well because I don't do that, or like the expectations aren't clearly defined, and so they're just guessing the way that they need to feel. So I think you're right on the money with that.
So my point guard that I was talking about earlier, we were talking the other day, and we were just talking about the ups and downs of the season. I said, "What is the maddest I made you during the season?" And we played Plano East, and it was a close game, and a couple in the fourth quarter, a couple of my sets got broke off, and there were some situations where guys were playing in a different spot that they weren't normally used to, but the expectation is for you to know that spot, know all spots. And so that was kind of, well, he doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. And there was a lot of infighting. I said, that's okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to finish out the game. We ended up losing. We came back, and we ran continuity offense for 90 minutes without scores continuously. And he was like, "Coach, that was the maddest I've ever been, because you had me out here running." And this set. This is crazy because I know you ran this set. Do you remember Houston? That it's out of a 1-4 high set, pass to the wing, back screen from the opposite elbow, down screen from the wing for the guy who goes off the back screen from the elbow. You would know it if you've seen it. It's a Coach Thomas special that I'm going to run, and I'm going to keep running.
Nice.
But it's continuity. And after about 4 quarters of running that without taking a shot and just going, and you better keep the same pace. You got to get through your cuts. You got to get through your screen. They were pretty upset with me. And guess what? Like magic, the next time that following Friday when we were a game and we called it, we ran it to perfection. So, it was very, it was probably overkill on it, but it was the expectation I had. We didn't meet the expectation, and there's going to be some sort of consequence. I honestly don't think putting guys on the line and just running them is the healthiest way to do things, because your body can be in motion and your brain can be checked out.
Yeah.
And you can be running and not learning your lesson from it. And then you have those elite guys you can run them for 2 hours. It doesn't matter. Yeah. They're fine. So, and then you got the guys in the back that struggle and aren't going to make times. So that can cause some infighting and some frustration. So I definitely do, try to find other ways to do this. I'll tell you a quick story. When I first got here, they had upset me because, I wanted fast pace. I wanted aggressive practice, and they just weren't practicing at the pace I wanted. So I said, okay, that's fine. The next day, they come out. I have cones set up. I have about 4 different stations, and I just take them through camp games for about an hour. And at first, it was fun. They were doing relay races. They were smiling. And those older guys start looking around, and they're like, wait, funny. Like, he's calling us a bunch of kids. And so we do that for about an hour. We're playing knockout. We're playing X-out layups. We're playing hot shot. And I'm not letting them shoot threes. They're shooting from the kiddie lines. And finally, they figured it out. And their egos were bruised a little bit that I would take time to do that. And I said, guys, if you're going to play and act like children, I'm going to treat you like children. If you want to play real basketball with a real goal, then let's get after it. But if you want to participate in reindeer games, that's fine with me.
It would have been fun to be an assistant right there. If I didn't really know what was going on, let's just say, because I have a lot of part-time guys. So a lot of times I'm the only one there full-time. I set things up. They just kind of come and they do some of the things, and that would be interesting. Hey, I love you made a great point, and I wanted to go back to it about running. So there's 3 ways that people learn. People can hear it. Some people need to see it, and others need to do it. Like those are the three ways. In my opinion, running, just get on the line and go, accomplishes none of those three.
Yeah.
So like if you're actually talking about them improving a skill, we're not talking about effort. We're not talking about discipline, improving a skill like a continuity, like anything defensively, blocking out any skill. Hear it, see it, do it. And to think that they are going to magically get it. Now, you're talking about focus. You're again talking about discipline, overall effort. Maybe running as a punishment will get them there, but that's extrinsic. Like it's outside of them. But I think the goal for us is to get them intrinsically excited and motivated to do what we're asking them to do. And I don't know. I don't know how much running gets you there in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a time for it.
Sure.
But I think you're right. You run a kid for 20 minutes and in 19 minutes, he's forgot what he was running for. He's just doing it. You go out and you run the set, you run, continuity sets for 90 minutes without a score. Like they're going to remember something out of it. If nothing else, they're going to remember to screen down and open up. So
yeah. And you just got to ask like, okay, where are we really struggling with in basketball right now? What parts of the game are taking us away from winning? And we spend more time on that. Again, if it's effort, if it's discipline, if it's focus, to me, that may go back to your culture and some of the things that you did or did not do early on in the fall when you're starting out.
I'll tell you this, man, grades are a big thing. I'm not a grade chaser. I'm a guy that if your teacher emails me, like, come on, man, you guys want to be 17, 18-year-old grown men all the time. It's time to be a grown man in the classroom. So one of the ways we set that culture getting here is on Wednesday, my assistant pulls the grade report. And if you're failing, you have a set of consequences. If you have any zeros, you have a set of consequences.
Nice.
And guys that are failing, that consequence is independent. Zeros add together as a program, and we all pay for those. So at first there was a lot of belly aching and whining and like, coach, I don't even have any zeros. They don't, they've got like 4 zeros. Why am I having a run? And you know what that developed into? That developed into teammates checking in on other teammates, making sure, hey, did you get that algebra turned in? Did you get that, whatever in English turned in? Did you get that lab done? And it also, because, it's kind of like if you have a 0 and you didn't turn it in 3 weeks, if that 0's still in the grade book, you're still running for that. Everybody. So it's got our guys checking in with their teachers, making sure they get late work in, making sure they're on top of their stuff. And what started out as them being upset with me about it turned into accountability. And I thought that was a big turning point for how we want to function as a culture. Because I think player-led accountability is the most important accountability.
No doubt. That coach, that's really good. I don't think I've heard that done with grades before. I wish I would have known of that system when I was at McKinney. But what you're talking about is collective responsibility. I mean, it's one of Coach K's pillars. And I think sometimes because we want to come in and either do the discipline or fix the problem, we don't enable our guys or give them opportunities to demonstrate collective responsibility. And that policy for grades, man, you're basically like, okay, you all can be upset and continue to run for Johnny, or you can band together with Johnny and have that accountability that takes them where you want them to go. Man, I love that.
Man, it is crazy to see the growth in that direction. I have lunch duty. I used to have it in the upstairs part of the arena. We let our kids go in there because we have block lunch. And, one of my players, I didn't see him for a couple of days. I'm like, where's this guy at? And they're like, coach, he's at tutoring during block lunch because he doesn't want zeros anymore. Like, we told him no more zeros.
There it is.
It's been great, man. It really has.
Coaches, the Jamodi podcast is powered by Shoot 360. The future of basketball has arrived in Dallas-Fort Worth. Shoot 360 combines the latest sports technology with the fundamentals of basketball skill development. The result is a one-of-a-kind video game-like basketball program designed to improve your shooting, dribbling, and passing. Visit shoot360dfw.com to learn more and register for your free 1-hour workout evaluation. Shoot 360, the future of basketball is here. You mentioned one of your pillars already, but I'd like for you, what are some of the standards pillars of your program?
Man, this is going to sound so corny, but I am a huge, and I can't believe I'm saying this in public, I am a huge professional wrestling fan. And so I absolutely love John Cena. So it's hustle, loyalty, and respect.
Coach,
I know that sounds corny, but I love it.
If you would have given me 100 guesses of where you got your culture from or what it was going to be, there's no way that I guessed that. So one, appreciate your authenticity. That's big time. Now everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Yeah, everybody tuning into the Jamodi podcast.
So yeah. Which who knows how many? But tell me those three again, and just the why behind why you like them.
I didn't really. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really understand that it was part of what we do until it clicked one day. The hustle, the loyalty, and the respect. And it's not necessarily directed at one individual entity. Like, we always want to hustle, because I think playing hard is a lost art. Like, if you're a moderate basketball player, if you play hard, you become a good basketball player, because a lot of people just don't play hard anymore. And the loyalty is the loyalty to your teammate and to your program. We don't want to be a person or a program that's chasing kids. We want people that want to be Lewisville farmers and that are proud to be here and don't have their eye over the fence looking for a better opportunity. And, I'll tell you this, one of the first things I learned in the coaching profession from Coach Thomas was the importance of loyalty. So, we want to build young men that understand, don't take that word lightly. And when you're here, you're a farmer and you're totally invested into what we're trying to build. So, and then respect, you would think the respect comes to respect me as the coach, but that's not what it is. It's respect the game, because this game is the ultimate meritocracy. And if you try to cheat it and if you disrespect it, it will come out in the wash when you don't need it to. If you cut corners, if you're not totally invested the way you're telling people you'll be exposed. So you have to respect the game and what you get out of it.
Man, I felt like I was listening to Coach Thomas right there, because that was I've talked to him for years about one of the biggest things that I felt like he taught us was to respect the game. And I can still see him after games. He wasn't afraid after a tough loss to show his emotion and to quiver and to let tears well up. And it just showed, like, his level of care to me was just so high. But one of his biggest messages that he always was throwing at us was to respect the game. And you know what, by taking that on, the game, you probably feel the same way. The game's been great to me. I mean, it's done. I've been able to do things I never dreamt. I mean, I'm able to be here now, and it's like, I know how much of a screw up I am, but you respect the game, you work hard, and good things happen.
Coach T said one time to never leave the game in the hands of a player that doesn't respect it, because they're going to let you down more often than not. And I think he said that in passing after a tough game. It was my first year. Like, I was just up there watching a game. I was an assistant middle school coach then, so I didn't really have a ton of scouting responsibilities, but I wanted to show my face and, like, hey, I'm over here, Coach Thomas, I'm watching your game,
Yeah.
And, they'd had a tough home loss and he was walking off the court and he said that, and I guarantee he doesn't remember it, but that's one of those things that and when you're at TWC, take your notebook. Don't be a guy that just sits in and zones out. because you may get your last second play from somebody. So just be active and attentive and be locked into what you're going through at that moment.
Man, thank you for those reminders. I'd love to ask the style of play question, but then we're going to kind of add into do you really focus on, does your style of play fit with any player, or does your style of play change based on the players you have? So we'll start with your favorite style of play to teach and then go into the second part.
Oh man, I'm like Ricky Bobby. I want to go fast. Listen, I'm not afraid of a shot clock because we ain't going to use more than 15 seconds.
That's right.
And we run a lot of secondary action and see what we can get. And then I run a lot of sets, and a lot of them are quick action sets, quick hitters. But we do expect our guards to know a lot and to be able to function in multiple different spots of the floor. Because ideally, if you're a rebounding guard, I want to push into it. I don't want to be the team that has a ball handler who looks for that ball handler. Then you have a kid that's not confident to push in transition, and then you can't play at the speed you want to play at.
Yeah.
So ideally, we want to play fast, but I do morph our philosophy into our highest rate of success. So, at MacArthur, I had a run of like really good point guards and stretch fours, and we played out of the 1-4 high, and we fed that stretch four, and we got them isolated against the mismatch, and we were able to be successful against that. And here, I haven't had, I had a really good stretch four last year, but he also played off the wing for me as well. And this year, we just had 4 guards, and it was a little bit different situation for me. And I absolutely loved it because, man, those guys could get downhill and kick. And when they were okay with the hockey assist, we got dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's impressive to me. I wish I was more like you with the ability to change and adapt. I think I'm getting better, Coach. I'm better than I used to be. But I was real stubborn early on. I loved just pure 4-out-1 and dribble drive. Me and Wes Watson went into it at McKinney, and but being stubborn in that, maybe stubborn in pressing or stubborn in man to man. Like, this is just who we are. This is what we do, and I can take anybody and place them into that and make it work. There's a lot of arrogance there, but then I think the best coaches, they have a style that they love, and they have concepts that they feel like they can mold, but ultimately it's about the players. And I feel like you've figured that out.
Yeah, early on, total transparency, I was a man-to-man guy. We're going to live and die by it. If we are pressing, it's going to be a 1-2-2, just, carbon copy of what Cleve had us doing when we were really successful. And then when I got my own program and there wasn't an Austin Chapman and AJ Price and a Jordan Williams.
Those guys are pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. So you have to get a little bit, you have to get clever sometimes. And, sometimes there are years where you got to use some smoke and mirrors, and you got to dig in your bag. And I try to draw from the least likely of places. Like, if everybody is, because we do this as coaches, right? So I remember when Syracuse won it, and everybody was like, oh, 2-3, 2-3, and we're going to do it like, and I'm like, yeah, it's really great when you got Carmelo Anthony and Akeem Ward back there. You can do that then. Yeah. But when you got a 6'1" and a 6'4" or 5, it's not fixing to be a long zone, and you're not going to be able to play it like that. So I like to take a look. Okay, what do we have? And then I like to draw from the least likely of places. And I've got a few wells that I go to when I'm trying to figure stuff out. And I also like to go back to what I did in previous seasons when I had similar rosters, because I don't run the same stuff. There are a couple of plays that I'm going to run and people know they're coming, and I'm like, stop it. And sometimes they stop it.
Still got to guard it. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Because at the end of the day, it's not the coach out there playing, it's the kid who gets back screen, right? But, I go back and I look at what we've done in the past, and I try to see if we can implement some of those successful techniques. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I am not married to any basketball philosophy that I love so much that I'm not able to adjust to with new information or new kids. So I'm willing to try. And as a coach, if you're hitting your head against the wall, if these guys are going to pick it up pretty quickly. And then that's where the arrogance comes in. I'm going to make them do it. Or how about we lessen this up and we pivot and get them into a comfortable situation where we can all be happy.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to, like, who is this really about?
Mm-hmm.
Is it really about us? And, I've had some humbling moments when I realized that, as far as legacy, things like that, okay, it's okay to care about it, but it's not the only thing. And Coach Thomas, like I thought about that. What an amazing career he had. But after a couple of years, at what point did people just really not even think? The gym's named after him. But
Mm-hmm.
like really not even think about his wins or great moments. Like, it's more about the relationships with players. And so if it's really about the relationships with players, then you've got to be willing to, like you said, pivot, learn something new, acknowledge, what, this isn't working. And instead of just continuing to force something, I've made a lot of mistakes in that area, but I'm recovering and trying to get better.
I think that, especially if you're successful early on, I think at a certain point part of your career, the achievements can feel hollow. And you get to 100 wins, you want 200 wins. You get to 200 wins, you want 300 wins. And if you allow yourself to get caught up in that a lot, you're never going to be fulfilled because there's always another step. And so those wins can feel hollow. Those achievements can feel hollow. But what doesn't feel hollow is right now, I have a former player from MacArthur who's on our staff, and, he is able to build relationships with kids because I am getting to be an old man and I don't identify with what they're going through daily. He can bridge that gap for me, and to see him thrive and to become a young coach and to see the guys like Scott Straley go out and take over programs, those are the wins. And I've had to readjust myself and say, okay, so what's important?
Yeah.
You treat kids right. You try to have them, let them have a great experience. And then you want them to come home. And it doesn't have to be come home, hey, coach, you did all this for me. That's not at all what I need. I just need you to come back and say hi. And so I joke with my wife all the time, we're always running here to watch a kid do this. I got a kid that is a former kid that's a professional wrestler. I've been to some live events in Dallas. I looked up one night and I was the oldest man in a club in Deep Ellum watching a kid rap, because I have this philosophy. Hey man, if you're doing something positive and you call me and say, hey coach, can you show up? I'm going to be there. If it's positive, you want me there, I will be there to support you. And when they do that, I think that's the mark of a good career, is you have kids that care about them, you seeing their success.
I love to ask questions about the balancing two sport athletes. So, at Faith, we're a smaller school, and so we do need multiple sport athletes for our programs to survive even. But even here, there's the tension sometimes between sports, and I think us coaches don't always help with that. But at a large school like you're at, how do you balance two sport athletes in your program?
Let me just say, from the moment I got hired by Brian Basil at MacArthur, I've had a run of 4 or 5 football coaches in my head coaching career, counting Michael Ogle here. And I've had an absolutely great relationship with all of them. I've been very fortunate that, if you're going to be at MacArthur, it has to be about the school being successful, because there's not enough athletes in that space for people to be greedy. And whoever's the most successful at the time is whoever keeps the athletes, right? So when I went in to those situations, I went in with an open mind of, hey, if we're going to share athletes, what does that look like? And all of those coaches have been super helpful and respectful to what I'm trying to do as a basketball coach, because I've been super open to things like, being in the weight room together and coming to summer workouts and having myself seen and building those relationships with their football guys, and not just being the basketball coach, but being, hey, that's Coach Martin. He comes to our games. He has a great relationship. He cracks jokes with us, and his guys are in here working out with us. So, last spring, we did a lot of our lifting in unison with the football program, because in the off season, you're trying to build skill, but we got guys that need to eat and lift. So I'll figure out the skill later, like get them in there. They have a strength and conditioning coach. They know more about the weight room than I know. Let's get in there. I'll coach your guys up. You coach my guys up, and let's all do this together. So sharing athletes has been great in the spots I've been in. They would invite us out at MacArthur on those Fridays, those dog days of before spring ball starts for them. They'd invite us out, and they do like competitions, and it'd be a basketball group, and they throw us in. And I'm not gonna lie, man, we won some of those things, and the kids got after it, and we're walking around with a chest full of air, and I'm like, guys, like leave it on the mats. We don't want to be too crazy about this, because they are much stronger than us. But I think a lot of the older regime, because they were afraid of maybe losing a kid, were walled off. And I know a lot of the younger football coaches are actually really receptive to like legitimately sharing athletes, not just, saying sharing. They're in your season when they're in your season, then I get them back.
We're going to share your athletes, but we're not going to share our athletes.
Michael Odell here has heavily encouraged his guys to, go play for Martin. I know you're going to get the discipline. I know you're going to get the structure. We'll work out the lifting schedule. He's been very encouraging to that. And I tell my guys, like, when it comes track season, go run track, because you don't want to be around me for 9 or 10 months. Like, my personality is going to wear on you because I'm demanding. So go hear it from somebody else.
No, that's a good point. And you kind of threw out a nugget that I think, so there's probably so many coaches that have had the opposite experience. But I got to wonder how much of it, not all, but how much of it was because of them. Because I think a lot of it. Because the fact that they didn't have your attitude towards, I'm going to be open, I'm going to make an effort, I'm going to go and crack jokes and be a part of it. Because I'll tell you right now, like, just full transparency, that's not something I think I would naturally do or want to do. But I can't imagine. We just got a new football coach here, and I've had it kind of on my mind to reach out and create a relationship with him that is healthy. We're supporting each other. You're right on the money. Like, we want all of our athletic teams at our school to be better because it's great for the school. But we don't always, like, that's what I say I want, but I have to show it with my actions. Yeah.
So, I mean, we're all having this human experience, right? And I think when we go in a situation and we've automatically had bad experiences previously, we can wall ourselves off because we don't want to have to go through the ridiculousness that comes with that. So we can kind of typecast or put people in a place. And I've just kind of adopted the philosophy of, look, man, I'm going to walk into this with eyes open, and I'm going to let you prove to me what kind of person you are. And if you're a person that can be trusted and you do the right thing, I'm going to rock with you. And if you're not, then I'll wall myself off. But I'm going to give everybody a chance to prove to me what they're going to be like. And, it helps being at Lewisville with a Lewisville guy who was a student here, who won here, who loves Lewisville. Like, he doesn't love Lewisville football. He loves Lewisville High. Yeah. And that has been such a different experience than other people. I mean, we're all friends. We talk, and people have bad experiences. But I think you're right. Negative energy is contagious. And if you walk in apprehensive and you don't really want that, if you have an ulterior motive, it's going to trigger theirs. So I just try to walk into it best foot forward, give them a chance to prove me wrong. And if they do, which it hasn't happened, I've been fortunate, but if they do, then we'll pivot and we'll do it a different way. But I've been fortunate.
I was just kind of giggling, thinking of something I heard. I'm going to change the wording a little bit around, but I think the phrase or quote is, you might meet a jerk in the morning. You might run into a jerk in the morning, and that happens. But if you're running into jerks all day long, if everybody you run into is a jerk, you're the jerk. Yeah. Like, you're the problem. Like, I thought about that.
Yeah,
like,
everybody can't be wrong.
If every coach that you work with, if everybody or everybody is out to get you, if everybody, I don't know, maybe there's just something. So, but great nuggets there, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Like I said, what I really have tried to do over the last couple of years is shine the light on people that have been good to me and that have treated me well and that have done good things around me. Last year, IHS came in and they gave us the title belt for Defensive Performance of the Week. And I was like, this is lovely and all, but this is not for me. This is for my assistant. And I was like he needs to be mentioned because I think he's elite at what he does. And so I try to give outward praise in spaces like this, because I don't give a ton of praise like to the exact person. And I need to work on that, and I need to do that better. But I think there's a vulnerability in telling somebody, hey man, you've done a good job, or telling a player, hey man, I love you and I hope everything's good. There's a vulnerability there that is sometimes hard for us to embrace. So anytime I'm in a space like this, I love to give those guys shout outs that have been impactful and influential on me, because they deserve it.
The Jamodi Podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
Well, Coach, I already know you, and I've learned more about you during this call, like the WWE interest that you have, and the speed round, short questions, first thing that pops in your head, just blurt it out.
Gotcha. Uh-oh.
Favorite beep. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
Greatest shooter of all time?
Steph Curry.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Best basketball movie of all time?
This Above the Rim.
Greatness.
Above the Rim.
Greatness.
So underrated.
It is. That's the one that I would actually go with. The majority of coaches say Hoosiers, and there's greatness there for sure. But to me, that's one of the best. You can argue if it's truly a basketball movie or not, but no, there's some good gold in there. For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
Shot clock. But can I just interrupt you for 1 second? Okay, so the question was on there, what is a rule change that you would like to see? And I'm sure that 50% of the coach, 70, 80% of the coaches say shot clock in high school basketball, right? But I think there's something out there that can be done that is more realistic, and that's, let's move to the 40-minute game, man. Let's stop playing 32 minutes, because if you move to the 42-minute game, that gives the incentive to those guys that are 8, 9, 10 on your bench to get meaningful, impactful minutes. And that's a program builder. Like, you don't lose kids to other sports where they're playing more minutes. You keep the interest up, because there's a big difference in playing 4 minutes and 8 minutes in a game. There just is.
Yeah. So and you and I both know, game. I love that, man. First guy that's ever said that. You and I both know, like, the 32-minute game is so short. Mm-hmm. And I really don't think I have to go past 7 guys. Like, no. I think I could stick 6 or 7, depending on and we'd be just fine running and gunning. People are like, oh, you play fast, you got to play more guys. No, because there are natural stops in the game, and it's so short. And so, like, to try to go 10 to 12 guys, like, it's brutal.
It's tough. And there are years where you don't want to go past 6.
Yeah.
But there are years that, like, 8, 9, 10, they can play.
Yep.
You just have a really talented team, and you feel sorry for them because I'm like, man, if you were coming back next year, you'd start.
Yeah.
So let's move to the 40-minute game.
I love that. Favorite holiday?
4th of July.
Yeah, that's the coach's holiday. You're up 3 on defense, 7 seconds left. Foul or no foul?
No foul.
You just play it out. You play it out. You want to see them make the 3.
I want to see them make the 3. I feel this year, I felt so confident in our ball pressure that we were going to make you uncomfortable, that the ball was going to end up in somebody's hands that shouldn't be taking that shot because of our ball pressure. Now, there are times where you do foul, but lately I've had really great perimeter defenders, and you're going to have to make it. You're going to have to show me.
That makes sense. What book would you give to someone?
Oh, man. So another unknown fact about me is I am an avid reader, and I'm a nonfiction guy. The best book that I've read on vacation in a while, and I think it's a quick read, super entertaining. There's nuggets in it. If you haven't read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey, it's a must read. So good, man.
It is so good. Yeah.
Oh, so you've read it, right?
I have read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it great? I mean, I guess I should have said The Leftovers by Matt Damon.
Oh, somebody said that the other day. Coach Snell from down in Waco Connolly. I asked that question, and he said The Leftover, and it just floored me. Like, I didn't see. I don't know. I was like, no. Oh, that's it, because he had mentioned a book early on, and that he really liked, and I said, I think I know the answer to this, but what's your book? And he said The Leftovers, and it just made me laugh, but obviously not. No, The Green Lights. I had no clue about his journey and some of those things that he had gone through early on, and where he lived, and it was interesting.
Yeah. But there's little nuggets of, like, I think what I really love about that book is his ability to review himself internally and make himself a better person, and notice those points in his life where maybe he wasn't the best man he could be, and try to pivot away from those and move towards being a better person. So that's what I got out of that book. Like I said, I'm not a nonfiction reader. I'm reading a couple of different things right now. Stoicism or Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Nice.
And it's really good. It's a quick read. I say that obviously make myself look a little bit smarter than what I am, but I am reading it. But I mean, I also read silly things too.
Sure.
Like I can sit down, and if you were to mail me a book of poop jokes on my birthday, I'd read the entire thing. Like
Which I'm not going to send that to you.
Sense of humor.
Yeah, I'm not going to send that to you. But no, that's good. In basketball, who's the GOAT?
LeBron. I know that's a point of contention. Okay, so let me break this down to you, Simon. Who does Kobe Bryant play like?
Jordan.
Okay, so in your lifetime, you've seen 2 things that look similar, right?
Yeah.
LeBron's an alien.
Yep.
Like, and that's what it comes down to me. Like, LeBron is an alien. And you could say Karl Malone, and you could even say Magic. I mean, people body-wise, Karl Malone.
Oh, yeah. Body-wise, and maybe like vision and passing ability Magic, but Magic couldn't do some of those other things he does.
Exactly.
And that's good.
So
that's good.
That's kind of the way I've decided to evaluate it. Tom Brady, to me, has won the most rings, but I've never seen Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is an alien.
Yeah.
So, I think he's got, 2 now?
Yeah, but it's just the way that he does things too. Yeah.
Five straight AFC championship games.
Yeah.
Like I evaluate things on the wow factor of wow, I've never seen a human do that.
Yep. Two more. Your favorite place to travel?
Isla Mujeres with my wife. Love it, man. You can be on a resort, but you can get amongst the people. You can make the entire island trip around the island in a golf cart in about 40 minutes. And I'm already a pretty relaxed personality. My wife's a nurse practitioner, so sometimes she can be a little high strung. But hey, man, you talk about just moving with the water. That is the place to be. That's my happy place.
Nice. Last one. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
I drink 16 ounces of coffee, so 2. And get it from the same coffee shop. I'm a creature of habit. Stop by there in the morning, get it. I walk in. They know what I want. Straight black, no cream, and load up the rocket fuel.
Let's go.
Listen to some, I'm sure my musical selections would be pretty shocking to you. It's all going to be one genre, but it's going to be a mixture of a lot.
Okay, favorite music genre to go to?
Rap is my favorite, but I absolutely love classic rock. Like I am a Van Halen. If I'm running in the morning, it's probably to Van Halen, and it's probably to Whitesnake. And yeah, I know you're shocked, right?
Coach,
I know
that just made this whole talk worthwhile. Like I had no clue about that. That's awesome.
Absolutely love early 90s grunge, hate mid to late 90s rock, but love the Foo Fighters, love Pearl Jam, love Nirvana,
let's go.
Love Alice in Chains, Rooster is my song. Like, yeah, no, I'm there, man. I'm there. But if it's go-to, 7 out of 10 times it's going to be rap if I'm driving to work, but if I'm on a run and I need something to get me going because I'm lagging, it's going to be some 1984 Panama and Jump and Hot for Teacher.
Oh.
Yeah, we're there.
Coach, I've appreciated your friendship over the years and always respected you as a man and as a coach, but getting to learn a little bit more just about how you run a program, how you got even into basketball was cool to learn about the culture piece and all of these things too, that now I feel like I know you even better. This was just such a pleasure for me, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, man, I appreciate you having me on. I think the world of you. I think there's something very special about considering yourself a Colony guy. And I don't think that place ever leaves your heart. And I think everything that us Colony guys do is for the approval of probably Coach Thomas and to represent that program well. So, your brother in that aspect, I appreciate the friendship we've had. And we got to get you over to our showcase coming up one of these years.
Coach, we're going to have to be working out like really hard and get a lot faster, tougher. But man, I'd love to do that. That'd be cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi Podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.